see, it takes like 20
There we
seconds
go.
until something
Yeah,
appears on my screen. Oh, did it show up for you? Does it say?
I'm seeing live. It says live in the top left.
It's still
Little red.
It's
little red
scheduled. It says it's coming. Okay, all right. I'm going to pretend it's going.
I think it is.
Okay, I'm here with Brock, and Brock has informed me that he has not foolishly parted with actual money, which he could have spent on pizza, and he lives relatively urban, so he could actually have pizza delivered to his home, but instead he gave this money to me. Ha ha ha! You ain't getting it back, Brock. It's
All right.
mine. I'm gonna go spend it. So, all right. I said I'd do this for an hour, and I said if you do it live and share it with people, I'll go over an hour. So let's get started. I understand that you are in Minnesota, which is cold country.
Yes, yeah, ostensibly. Hasn't, as I mentioned earlier, hasn't really been the last 2 years as much, but we still got 20 below several times last winter. So
Ooh, nice. That's nice. That'll help to keep the bugs and the funguses at bay. Although if you're in Minnesota, isn't it called the land of 10,000 lakes?
Yes, and I would be remiss as a Minnesotan if I didn't point out that it's closer to 13 or 14,000 lakes. That's we all say that.
So that's 13,000 to 14,000 mosquito breeding pits.
The big ones, yeah. Then there's lots of smaller ones everywhere else too.
Okay. We have like pretty much, at least at my place, no mosquitoes, and so it sucks to be you. But maybe it's lovely and delightful, and I'm just dumb. But okay, and I understand Andreas has a whole bunch of pictures all loaded up and ready to go. And now, what are we going to talk about today, Brock? So it sounds like you've listened to a bunch of my podcasts. You got some knowledge there, so you know what you're getting into. So for most people, I just make them cry. But it sounds like you're going to be just fine because you know what kind of stuff I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think I have some idea of a few things you're going to probably say you dislike. That's fine.
Okay. I take it that we're looking at your delightful garden, a wall of cucumbers in the front with a crab apple tree in the back.
Yeah, this is my front garden, and I've heard you say the whole zone 1 thing. When we moved into this house, it had quite a lot of trees. Unfortunately, thanks to the emerald ash borers, we're rapidly losing all the ash trees. But this was one of the only places that we could find that had a good amount of sunlight to get started with our vegetable garden. So we put this in with the help of a local backyard gardening farm consultancy, a couple ladies that run that. We've got 3 4x8 raised beds in front of the house right next to the driveway. So it's great anytime we pull in or park in the driveway and go in the house, I can say, look at all those cucumbers that are ready to pick, or tomatoes, or I need to go trim something or whatever. So this is the southernmost of the 3 beds in the front. We're looking at the back. So that's 2 4-foot wide by 6-foot tall trellises. And the cucumbers went nuts this year with foliage, and they were a bit slow on the fruit, but that's all coming along now. And yeah, that's one of our crabapple trees. That's in the front. We have more in the back.
All right. So it's pretty flat.
Yeah, we have a very flat property. There's a slight grade when I was looking at the topo map from the north to the south, but you're walking on it, you really can't tell.
All right. I'm looking at an image. Is it 3/4 of an acre?
No, that's all about 2 acres. The property's
2 acres.
Almost 2. Yeah, from front to back there.
Excellent.
Excellent. So it's kind of small on here. I don't know if you're able to make that out.
How many human beings are you trying to feed?
5 human beings and 3 chickens.
Okay. Good. Yep. So you're growing cucumbers and you're getting a lot of them. I'm guessing if you're going to grow that many, it's not like you've got everybody sitting there going nom nom, shoving cucumbers in their face. You're going to pickle them or preserve them.
Right. So that's one key thing that's kind of motivating this. I am kind of a one-man operation in terms of the gardening, the outdoor stuff. My wife is happy to cook and happy to can. and she's been, has dove right into that the last few years. So doing a lot of canning, and I know you don't love the annuals, but we over the past 4 years we've really narrowed down. We started off growing a lot of different things, including mostly annuals, and quickly found we need a lot of peppers, onions, garlic, tomatoes, various herbs, basil, that kind of thing. We do a lot of potatoes. I'm trying to, I listen to the Gamcod stuff, and I've really been thinking about like, how do we actually get calories out of the soil here, because cucumbers and tomatoes really don't have a lot of calories. So I planted about 200 chunks of seed potato this year. I did dry beans along my whole back fence for about 100 feet and a little bit in front of it. And unfortunately, the rabbits got a lot of the bush beans, so I got to tighten up my my fencing in that back area there. But I think Andres is pulling up a picture maybe here. That's the front. Yeah, so that's that main garden in the front I was talking about. We do have aronias, as you can see there. We do a lot. My wife does a lot of canning with those, jam, syrup, that kind of thing. I have some Saskatoon berries along my back fence. Unfortunately, between rabbits and the crazy rain we've had the last 2 years, they're having a lot of trouble. I've got them properly protected from rabbits now, but we'll see what happens next season in terms of the moisture.
Do you have cats?
We have one cat. He was born in a barn and raised to hunt. But there were issues with small animals dying around here, so we have been keeping him in lately. But he loves to drag rabbits and mice into the house when he's allowed out.
Okay, so what I hear is you have a deficiency of cats that love to eat rabbit.
Yeah.
And while your cat has gone to the neighbors and eaten their pet rabbits, what's happening?
No, he was getting rabbits all around our house, but then there's something, people were reporting a lot of small animal deaths. We didn't know if someone was putting out poison or what was going on, so we've been keeping him in, unfortunately.
Oh,
because he's my daughter's beloved cat, so we don't want him to, go missing. But he loves to hunt. So I was even thinking about trying to attract more feral neighborhood cats or something to the area, or just get more so we don't care if some of them disappear. I don't know. But yeah, the cat does work when he's allowed out.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about how people will put out poisoned bait.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're going to have a rabbit problem and not a lot of way to solve it. I mean, I suppose you could try to attract owls and hawks and the like.
Well, I try to just seal it up. I mean, I know how to seal things up. It's just in the back. We just have the welded wire fence, and I've seen the rabbits squeeze through it. I got some chicken wire to put along the bottom for next season, and I think that'll take care of most of it.
Okay.
I just try and seal them out. That's my approach right now.
Okay. All right. Cool. All good. Sorry, my mind went off on a. Now, the other thing is I hear that the subtext of when you listed off a bunch of things you're growing, the subtext I heard is your wife really likes to make salsa. Is that true?
She does like to make salsa, tomato sauce. We're making hot sauce, roasted green chili sauce. I lived in New Mexico for 10 years, so we got used to the green chilies, growing a lot of the same variety they grow down in Hatch. So yeah, that kind of stuff.
Okay. Now, of course, what I want to do is to push all my philosophies onto you, which you, in a way, you signed up for like a fool. And so let's jump in.
Yeah, let me give you a little background on that. So what motivated this call is it's just about time for me to start doing fall preparation. And I'm thinking I need to grow a lot more perennials. And I started looking at my options for perennials, and it was just, I was so overwhelmed. And I thought, who could tell me what I might think about? It's Paul Wheaton. So here we are. That's what I signed up for.
And I'm going to say the things, and you're going to be like, I knew he was going to say that. And it's like, so what's going to be the first thing I'm going to say?
Apple trees.
Oh, okay, sure. I was going to say Hugelkultur.
That's in here. So I've got one. I've started building one already. I have 6 or 7 more dead ash trees I need to take down with a chainsaw and a boom lift. And so those logs I'm planting more hugels.
So your ash tree pests are actually helping you out. Like, hey, let me kill this ash tree. Then it'll be nice and dry for your projects. Whether And of course, my guess is you don't have a rocket mass heater, even though it gets so cold where you are.
No, no, very, very. So we have a very robust department of making you sad here, and I do have a thread. If we get through all this, I was hoping that was like a little lanyap, a little extra. I'm trying to think about how to build a rocket mass hot tub, but we can get to that later if we have time. But it's on my mind.
Well, of course, the thing that's really important is that you comply with everything the government demands of you. That you are absolutely compliant at all times. That is so important.
It's not that important, but I do have a
jump. You say how high and how much do I pay for the privilege to jump? That's important.
I don't have many neighbors, but I do have one, and her name is literally Karen, and she's quite the busybody. So, so I've had some
name Kravitz. I just because that's my go-to is Mrs. Kravitz. Only really old people like me know who that is.
No, she found out that I was actually in the right, and she's accused me of skirting because I actually read the city code and know what I'm allowed to do and not. But she's called the city on me a few times, and mostly they've told her to pound sand. But I do have to be mindful. We can bend the rules a little bit, but someone's keeping an eye on me. So
beautiful. Yeah. I know that for myself, I built big ass berms along the perimeter. And it sounds like between you and Karen, who I'm going to say her last name is Kravitz because that just tickles me. I'm going to have to say that make that berm extra big.
Yeah, we've got a fence there between the properties, and I've got some fabric as a barrier, so we have visibility. But yeah,
she'll find a way.
Yeah,
she's gonna invest in drones next. Because she needs to look at what those crazy people next door have done. They need to comply with what I want them to do. Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
You got it. You nailed it.
But still, I think that I kind of desperately need to piss off Mrs. Kravitz now, just so I can giggle a bit. But of course, the solution to so many things is. You need to have enough acreage so you can build berms, so you can do your thing without the Mrs. Kravitzes of the world trying to get you to comply, not with the law, but to comply with, I don't know. And, another way of looking at it is that it is possible that Mrs. Kravitz thinks you're cool and she's trying to find any possible way to have any conversation with you that she can, and she can't think of anything better. Next time, it's like the next time you hear from her, you might say, if you want to visit with me, you can invite me over for pie.
Yeah, I thought about bringing her some cherry tomatoes. We're just drowning in them this year, honey rather than vinegar, but we'll see.
So, all right. And I was talking about being compliant with the government at all times, because that's how you get change, is by constantly being perfectly compliant with all governments at all times, and that way the government will just know, what, rocket mass heaters are actually good, and now we're going to go and tell Brock it's okay, because that's how government works, right? That's the system. Yeah. So, all right. So I said that. Now, Hugelkultur. I want your Hugelkultur to be at least 7 feet tall. And just because I want things doesn't mean I'll get anything that I'm asking for, but I can want all I want to want. And I'm going to start with wanting a really great Hugelkultur. Now, you said this is the beginning, and I choose to believe you.
Yeah, that's about 4 to 5 feet. Unfortunately, all the material I read before I started on it, I missed the part about making sure there's soil in the middle. So some of that's going to have to get pulled off. And that was a big question I had. So if I want to build a bunch more hugel beds, I'm not sure where to get the soil. I can dig right next to it, as you often say. I'm a little confused about that. Worry it might make it a little swampy. I mean, I guess we have kind of sandy soil here, so maybe that's not an issue. I do have a source for compost and soil that does the biological assays to test for persistent herbicides, because part of me wants to just get 20 cubic yards of that stuff brought in over there and start piling it up. But
don't do it. Don't do
okay.
it. Let's talk about bioassay for a moment.
Sure.
You know what a bioassay is, right?
Yeah, they try and grow peas and stuff in it and see how it does.
They try to grow peas and see how it does. And it's like, now let's suppose that you've got a lot of composty goodness in there and you've got some persistent herbicides. And so now granted, the peas are especially sensitive to the persistent herbicides. And so let's suppose that the persistent herbicides that are in there, which they're there, they're going to stunt the growth of the peas, not kill it, but stunt the growth. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, there's a bunch of composted goodness there, which is going to make the peas grow bigger. So if you've got a control of peas growing in dirt, and then you got the peas growing in this compost, and the peas do better. If there was an even better compost and the peas did 10 times better than the peas in that compost, that would be a good bioassay, but they're not going to do that. So the thing is that it gets far, far, far more complicated, but the icky stuff that ends up inside of commercial compost is pretty icky. And as a permaculture person, I want you to never import that sort of thing. I mean, I have imported stuff onto my property, but I got to tell you, I went through some hoops. Like I asked backwards questions a lot, and I did all kinds of things to get my story right. But I tried to bait them into, telling me the opposite of what I want. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
How can I be sure that there's no weeds in your compost? Oh, well, we sprayed the fuck out of it. That's how you know. And it's like, but if you say, how can I know that you haven't sprayed the fuck out of it? Oh, we've never sprayed with anything.
Right.
So,
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. I want you to have a thought in your head already that the ground layer at your property is 18 inches lower than what it currently is. All right. So this is kind of like Mr. Rogers' land of make-believe. And then all that soil that's right there, that's too high, you got to get rid of it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, do I have a good solution. And so now in a few magic words, I'm going to solve all your problems. I'm going to say, okay, I want this Hugelkultur to be 7 feet tall. That's what I want. Mm-hmm. And you are my labor force for getting me what I want on your property. All right. But I also kind of feel like if I overwork you, you're not going to get very much done. So I've come up with an evil plot. And it goes like this. Take a bunch of woody bits and lay it on the ground where your Hugelkultur is going to be, about 4 feet wide, and let's say about 60 feet long. All right. Then you're going to start digging around that wood out of all that soil that's too high. And you're going to put that on the wood until you can't see the wood anymore. Then you're going to add more wood, add more soil, add more wood, add more soil, until the whole thing is about 4 or 5 feet tall. And then you'll notice that where you're standing now got about 2 to 3 feet lower. And so it's like, great. Then when you're standing in the bottom of your new ground level, it seems like this is 7 feet tall, but you only built something that's 4 feet tall. Damn, you're good. What a professional. You should get paid more. All right.
I agree.
So I think that, like when you're saying, where am I going to get this soil? You're standing on it.
Hmm.
And it's like, and that's good organic stuff. I mean, you've been there. How long have you been there?
I've been here 4 years. This was my grandparents' house that they built. So I know the whole history of the property going back to 1948 or something like that. So, and all that's been going on back there is prairie grass getting mowed down occasionally, and that's it. So.
Oh, it sounds so delightful. All right. Now, okay, Hugelkultur it's going to be more resilient, less work overall. And with your less work, you can go build more Hugelkultur. But then on top of that, we want to grow a polyculture. So we started off looking at like, man, that's a lot of cucumbers. I could tell this dude loves cucumbers so much. I think his wife makes relish, and not in pickles, like pickles and relish. She's just bonkers because that's going to make a lot of cucumbers there.
Yeah, we had trouble. We didn't get enough last year, and so I planted a lot this year, and now we're flooded. But
okay, all right, all fair, fair. Mrs. Kravitz might like cucumbers as well, so have some cucumbers and some tomatoes.
The chickens certainly like them. When we have extra, they've been getting them. So
beauty. The crabapple tree.
Yeah, we have several.
How's the flavor of those crab apples?
Well, we have not harvested that one. So we have one. There's a nice picture of it somewhere out the back window of our house, right there. It's right over there. I'm sitting right next to it practically. We have harvested that one. We really like those crab apples.
Okay. I mean, they're small, but they taste good.
Yeah. That's a pain in the butt, but we got the whole family out there picking them, and my wife processed them and made some amazing crab apple butter. We have more in the front, beautiful trees, beautiful pink flowers in the spring. And part of me wonders, I'd love to have some regular apples. Could we graft onto some of these crab apple trees?
Yes, you can. Have you ever grafted before?
I have not.
Wear your leatheriest leather gloves, or else you're going to sacrifice a lot of blood to the grafting gods.
Good to know.
And so at the same time, I'm not a big fan of grafting. And even more than that, I'm not a big fan of crab apples in general, because it does tend to be a lot of work to get food out. And it's like, I want it to be easier on you. The other thing is that I love the idea of winter keeper apples for a variety of reasons. And I love the idea that you might plant on your 2 acres, you might have a dozen different varieties of winter keeper apples and 0 crab apples. And then what happens next is that these winter keeper apples that'll come out in a few years, they will have crossbred with the other winter keeper apples. And then you can plant those seeds in a variety of places and get more winter keeper apples, because mom's a winter keeper and dad's a winter keeper. And so, but then on the other hand, if it's a crab apple plus a winter keeper, then that seed, that the tree that comes from that seed might not be as good. And it's like, damn. All right. So
yeah, they'll interbreed, huh? Okay.
But maybe until those apples start to produce, you can keep your crab apples and try to get other things going. So that's an idea. Okay. So I mentioned the whole thing about Hugelkultur, nice and tall and big, and you've got some garden space. It looks kind of flat and depressing to me. But let's move on.
Okay.
Sunchokes. Are you growing any sunchokes yet?
I'm not. I figured you would suggest sunchokes. Yeah. Okay. So I've started looking into it. I'm concerned about the inulin content, but I understand there are workarounds, and yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you don't care about the inulin content. What you care about is the side effects.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, I want to say that the last 20, 30 times I've ever eaten sunchokes, I've had 0 side effects. But I think from what I understand, there's 2 important factors that play into this. So for example, when your apples are coming on and they are green and hard as rocks, you elect to not eat them. Your taste buds tell you, spit that out.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that there's a short harvest window, and then afterwards, There's apples on the ground that have become mushy, and they've become a living space for other gross things.
Yep.
And your eyes tell you, do not put that in your pie hole. Okay.
Yep.
So, I mean, nice and obvious. Unfortunately, a very short harvest window. But let me move on to the next piece, and that is that I want to say that there's a similar sort of an idea that surrounds sunchokes, only it requires your brain as opposed to your taste buds or your eyes. And so it goes like this. Step one, harvest after the first hard frost. Apparently, that shifts a lot of the inulin over or whatever it is, but you'll get less after effects and comedy. Now, you've got kids, I'm guessing. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, 3 kids.
Isn't this the source of all childhood comedy? I mean, don't they need more of this in their life? And that way they could point at the other children and talk about what just occurred and be disgusted while they do the exact same thing 1 minute later and act all innocent and sweet. So I would say, is it a childhood without these side effects? So there needs to be some of that. But all right. So there's 2 things. Number 1, harvest after the first hard frost. Number 2, start small and then have a little bit more. So like, have it every other day, perhaps for a few weeks, and then have it until you get to like a full-size thing. So apparently there's microbials inside of our innards that are great at digesting this stuff, but you got to have enough of them.
Yep.
And so you got to build it up. So, but here's the next thing I'm going to. You said calories.
Yep.
Sunchokes, it's the highest calorie count per acre. The other thing is you cook them as you would any potatoes. You can even eat them raw, but the next big thing is that they will wait for you. The harvest window is immense. You leave them in the ground. Like with potatoes, you got to pull them out and cure them.
Yep.
And then they keep for like 3 to 5 months if you keep them correctly. And so, but sunchokes, it's like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. The other, they will do the potato thing where it's kind of like the potatoes, they put up a flag. Their green leaves turn to yellow. Harvest now. If you don't harvest now, we're going to put this yellow flag away and you won't see it and you won't know where we've hidden the potatoes. So the sunchokes have same thing. Their stalks all go away and you don't know where they are. So we've kind of gotten the habit of making little stakes that have a little yellow sign on them, little yellow flag, and it's like sunchokes be here. So that's what we do.
Gotcha.
All right. All I want to do is to say, because now you've got a great combination. You, the gardener, and your wife who loves to cook. And I got to say, I just finished going to all these potlucks in the Portland area, and it was deeply heartbreaking because there were people who did all this stuff to have people to garden with and cook with and all these things. And then when those people either disappeared or turned out to like, I'm not into it as much as I said I was. I mean, I just wanted to impress you. And I didn't really want to do it. And so all those kinds of stories, and they're doing it by themselves. And then on top of it, they can't even give it away for free. And it's turned into such a poison to them, and they're so, and it's like they're trying to put on a happy face while I'm there as best they can, but I can just kind of see the underlying, wow, that is tough. So you've got a beautiful thing, and where your wife loves to cook. Now, here's the next thing I want to do. If you're growing walking onions and sunchokes, two things that can be harvested in November, December, January, February, and March, then basically your wife can make a new soup once or even twice a week where these things are the core of it. But then, like, I mean, I'm going to guess that your family can put away a lot of potatoes every day. And now you will end up with basically infinite potatoes, sort of. And it's like, oh, today we're going to do a mashed. I mean, the soup, and then the soup, and then the soup. Because the soup is like you just take all the pieces, throw them in a pot with water and salt, and you got soup. You're done. It's so crazy easy. And I'm talking about crock pot, really. Anyway. Okay, setting aside the crock pot, mashed, fried, hashed browns, baked. I mean, the list of ways to prepare potatoes is a very, very long list. Mm-hmm. And to have infinite potatoes that are not only, when you go to harvest them, not only are they crisp and hard and ready, but they are crisper and harder and fresher than any of your potatoes. So when you get into January, these are going to be far better tasting, far more delightful, far more enjoyable than potatoes.
So I know you say have said that you harvest them through the winter and are talking about that right now. So do you mulch over them or something so the ground is not rock hard, or how are you harvesting those when the ground is rock hard?
Well, where they are, the ground is going to be less rock hard, because you're right. When you get to 0 degrees Fahrenheit and you go out there with a pickaxe, the ground is like, no, I'm not giving you anything. So there's a bit of that. But at the same time, where these are, the ground tends to be not quite as cementy. And I don't know why that is, but I can say that up on top of a Hugelkultur, you're going to have a little bit of a microclimate. It is a little less frozen up there. But then at the same time, I suspect your winter is a lot like our winter in Montana. And it's like, all right, it's 20 below. Not harvesting any sunchokes today. The sunchoke store is closed. And then for some weird reason, 4 days later, it got up to 42 degrees during the day. And now everything's turned into a giant swamp in the middle of January. So you're nodding your head like, yes.
Occasionally, yeah. I mean, certainly there are warmer, sunnier days. And if it's on a hugel and we can, if we get back to it, but I was trying to figure out how to lay out more, maybe sun scoop. There we go. Screen went asleep. Yeah, I can see where there could be days where that's things are going to be softer.
And on those days, the Sunchoke store is open. We're going to eat sunchokes today, people.
Yep.
And so that is where I'm going with all of this. So now I kind of feel like I'm working on this whole new book, but it's going to take me 5 years to write it as I, discover 100 more details about sunchokes and walking onions. But there's also a lot of other foods I'm trying to include in this winter harvest in Montana. But the thing is that not only is this the largest number of calories per acre, and you're going to feed your family even more, but the harvest window is so huge that it's going to be it makes it so that if there's something else that has a really narrow harvest window and then something goes sideways there, you're not beating yourself up about it. This whole thing I saw so much of in Portland, where good people, good gardeners were like seeing a lot of their bounty go to waste. And
that's hard.
They were just brutalizing themselves over it. And so And I kind of feel like we're about to record a new podcast about that whole angle of all the things. But we're talking about your property and what I want you to do on your property. And so I want you to increase food production, and your property is so flat. The first thing I want you to do is to add texture to the landscape for a variety of reasons. And then now, granted, when you get close to some of these trees, you're going to encounter a lot of roots. But these trees are begging to be the inside of your future Hugelkulturs. At least some of them are. The insects have picked a few for you to help guide you in this direction.
Yep.
It looks like things there are pretty well tidied. I see grass. I hope there's plenty of weeds in the grass.
Yeah, we got a lot of plantains, and we actually have clover lawn. So I've been planting Dutch microclover. So it's most of it, I'd say, is heavily dominated by clover at this point. Not that much grass.
I think having like 1/10 of an acre of lawn that's going to be a tall fescue is going to be great for the kids, great for all kinds of lawn related activities, picnic table stuff, yard sale. To me, it just seems like a massive amount of life is done on a lawn. And so, and I want you to do basically a mowable meadow, but I got to say that the micro clovers are a bad idea. I mean, clovers are good. They fix nitrogen, and when you mow them, they release nitrogen. Whenever you mow, always mow high. But the philosophy set is that they're going to grow low, so you don't have to mow. But what actually happens is all the things that are not micro clovers then grow high and outcompete the micro clovers, and then you don't have micro clovers anymore. You got something else, and so it's kind of like it's even larger maintenance. So I think that the thing to do is to plant like a dozen different things that will tolerate 3 to 4 inches of mowing. And so, but how tall are you mowing right now?
I mow 3.5 inches. So we have one of these Husqvarna auto mowers, and it just goes constantly with the little razor blades and keeps the lawn at about 3.5 inches all the time. Which brings me, I see there's a thing about the property. It is a slight slope, as I said earlier, from the north to the south, very slight. But anyway, I don't have grass clippings to use as mulch because they all get mulched. Yeah, but they all get mulched in the lawn. So I know that you hate wood chips and wood chippers. I have a lot of wood chips that I get from chip drop, and I have chipped branches when I take down some of these trees. But one of my questions there on the thread was, what could I or should I grow maybe that I can go out with a scythe and scare away Karen and mow down to use as mulch, or what else would you recommend in terms of mulching?
Well, I love the idea of the scythe. I hope you have a giant black hooded robe to do your scything in, especially in October.
Yep.
But I would say, my first thought is yellow blossom sweet clover would be one of many things to grow. So somewhere you might have this 1/4 of an acre or 1/10 of an acre patch of things you're growing. In fact, you look like, are you connected to the sewage treatment plant, or do you have a septic tank?
Oh, no, we're on city sewer, city water.
Okay. All right. I was going to say, like, almost everybody has this patch of glorious grass growing over their drain field, but you don't have a drain field.
No, okay. I had that in New Mexico, but not here. Glorious weeds.
So I'm going to say, if, like, let's say you were to grow a variety of, like, let's say a dozen different things in this 1/10 of an acre where its entire function is to grow your mulch. and then you're going to go and what I do is I take log carriers over, and then I put a whole bunch of the material. I cut it and put it in the log carriers. Then I kind of carry 2 bales of mulchy stuff over to where I want to do mulchy things. But you're right. I firmly believe that anytime you fire up a wood chipper, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. And so, and you know, a lot of people disagree. They still use the wood chippers, and it's like that's their thing. Fair enough. I want to say that if you've got like branches and sticks and things like that, and you're tempted with wood chippers, why not go at it with some loppers, and then lay that material on top. I'll bet you'll get it done faster. It will not be a loud, obnoxious, horrible sound. And it'll be almost as effective as a mulch. It's amazing how if you chop everything up into these 8 to 12 inch long chunks, how well it lays directly on stuff, just like wood chips do. And so that's what I do. But of course, I've also got a rocket mass heater. So sometimes I take the loppers to something and I put it in a box and set it aside, and I'm going to burn it later.
Yeah.
So.
I also have a wood-fired sauna, so I am putting up some of the wood for that, splitting it in sticks for kindling and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Brilliant.
I do have uses for it.
Okay, cool. But I personally am going to be completely against the wood chipper. I mean, your garden is your paradise, right? This is like, because like I go and I visit all these other gardens and I look around and I kind of go, oh man, this garden sucks. And it's like, I'm glad to come home, and it's like, my gardens are amazing, but they're amazing by my standards. But I kind of feel like I've been around wood chippers. They stink and they're so loud, and it just seems wrong. Plus I saw the movie Fargo once.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're dangerous.
Yeah, you do have to have respect for those. So. And
it gives evil people ideas. I mean, do you really need to be feeding the idea machine of evil people? So, yeah, no, I chippers.
Okay.
All right. Walking onions. Let's talk about those a little bit. Now, on Sunchokes, one of the properties that I saw on this last trip, a gal had planted 2 sunchokes in the corner of her yard, and she left the grass there. So she just stuck the sunchokes in with the grass.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of forgot about it. And then when I was there, 2 years had passed. And I'll bet she had, and I looked at this sunchoke patch that she had growing, and she was so happy because the beautiful flowers. And she's never harvested any of the sunchokes. And I said, I'll bet, because the patch is now spread so much, I'll bet that this winter you could dig out 200 pounds of sunchokes from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll come back even bigger next year. And so every year it's like next year she might have 400 pounds of sunchokes. And the year after that, she might have 800 pounds of sunchokes. But I mean, like the lawn's getting watered, like how lawns sometimes do. So I think it's amazing at how prolific sunchokes can be. So there's that. Walking onions, similar sort of story. It's amazing how they make more. Plus, whereas sunchokes can be harvested like 9 months out of the year, walking onions can be harvested 12 months out of the year. And just to be clear, 365.2425 days out of the year, every day. Every day of every year they can be harvested. And so So when you're making those soups or whatever, it's like, no, there's always onions, gobs of onions, thousands. There's thousands of onions outside right now, thousands. And they're harvested all winter long. So part of it is that with the path that you're currently on. So for example, the cucumbers. I mean, cucumbers are kind of cool because they're going to be like pumping out a bunch of new cucumbers every 4 days.
Yep.
So now you just got to keep grabbing them and preserving them and grabbing them and preserving them and grabbing them and preserving them. And it's like, but it's also kind of like asking for a lot of your wife. Yep. You know, keep preserving, keep preserving, keep preserving. And it's all going to be now or else it's going to be gone forever.
Well, and me, I got to be on it harvesting them too. So yeah, I'm definitely looking, you know, it's just the two of us running this. I'm looking to spread that out and reduce the effort overall where I can. So I like the sound of that.
And what I'm suggesting is once you get enough, you know, because you're going to grow Sunchokes, you probably are already growing potatoes.
Yes.
And the potatoes are on right now, right?
Yeah, there's some. The earlier varieties are about ready. The longer ones are maybe going to need a little bit longer. But yeah.
Sure, but you could go out right now and get a bunch of baby potatoes. They're not quite ready, but you could eat them today.
Well, I got some this big a month and a half ago. So yeah, we got potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is when you can't eat Sunchokes, that's when the potatoes are available. So nice. It's like whether they're baby potatoes. The other thing is that after you just had 9 months of Sunchokes, you might be ready for a little bit of a break. But it's also the time of the year when the garden starts to produce so much more stuff. I'm kind of leaning towards the idea of, I think putting stuff up and preserving it, drying it, canning, pressure canning, all the things, doing all that stuff is lovely and delightful. But when you're going to eat all that through the winter, I kind of like the idea of how do you get that to be a little lighter? Like rather than it being the staple, that it's more of a little, like if you're going to put up applesauce, and granted, I kind of feel a little bit like let's eat applesauce every day. Like let's grow so many apples. But it's kind of like for all these other things, maybe it's more of a couple of times a week thing or maybe 3 or 4 times a week thing as opposed to 2 or 3 times a day kind of a thing. And then let the staples, because right now the standard American diet has 3 things that are their staples. Their staples are wheat, corn, and soy. And that's their staples. And so I kind of feel like let's replace those staples with something else that's more aligned with our garden, something that doesn't require a lot of food preservation time. Because like if you're going to make salsa, you know, there's the harvest, which is great, and it'll always be about that. But then there's the whole thing where it's like you got to do a lot of prep and you got to do it today. And it's like you're going to tuck in for 6 to 8 hours of canning to make all that salsa. Because if nothing else, if you're going to do like, let's say pints, you're going to do 10 pints of salsa. You need a certain amount of materials to make it all. Yep. And then you got to do a round of canning, but you know, and that's just for 10 pints. But a lot of times it's like, well, the canner's already fired up. Why don't we do 20 pints? So it's kind of like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, she was making tomato sauce for 6 hours yesterday. So yeah, exactly.
And the thing I learned this last year because I made ketchup decades ago. And I told myself, I'm never going to make ketchup again because spending 12 hours standing there stirring is like never again. However, now what we do is we take a crock pot and we put it all in the crock pot. We leave the lid off and the crock pot's not too hot. And it kind of does this simmer for 24 hours. And then you come back and it's all reduced down. It's like, ha, that was awesome. Let's do that again.
Yeah.
So, this is the way. I was a fool before. I can be taught. So All right, the last thing I want you to plant more of, and your kids are going to hate me for this, is kale.
Mm.
And what I want you to shoot for is kale that will reseed itself. So pick your favorite kale, one variety. Is that kale there?
No, that's Brussels sprouts mostly. And there's one giant, I think it's a cabbage. I don't know what that's doing. It hasn't put out broccoli or cabbage looking stuff at the top, but the rest are Brussels sprouts, and there's broccoli behind in that bed.
Well, I think
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts are disgusting, and I don't. That's why I didn't recognize it. And I suspect that your kids will agree with me.
No,
And,
we like them. We like them roasted with some bacon or something. They're quite good, but
well,
there's no accounting for taste. So
there's yeah. I think your whole family is weird, but you get to be as weird as you want, man. So, all right.
Anyway, kale. Okay, reseeding kale.
Right, because I want it to be able to reseed. And then, of course, the great thing about kale is that like it's still available generally through December into January, and then it seems to kind of go dormant for a couple of months and is less available. It's not really growing, and then it kind of comes back in the early spring and takes off again. So it's kind of like got 9 or 10 months of harvest, and so I think that that's great. It doesn't require this. It's got this large harvest window, and that makes eating from the garden so much easier. And this is this whole thing I'm advocating these days. All right. So we talked about Hugelkultur. We talked about apples and crab apples.
Yep.
We talked about cucumbers and unfortunate Brussels sprouts. Let me, rather than me just sitting here yammering on and on and on and on, how would you like to direct this conversation from here?
Yeah, let me pull up my list here from the thread of the questions I was hoping to hit on. Kind of went over this, the ash trees. Yeah, I wouldn't mind just closing the loop on the hugels. If you had any thoughts on layout, like I said, I'm guessing maybe sun scoopy or wavy to try to avoid frost pockets. So I have the one there. I think I'm going to need to pull the top off and get some soil in there and rebuild it. I'm no stranger to operating machinery. The rental place is very close by. That was put together with a skid loader for the big log chunks that I had, and I'll be getting a skid loader or excavator or both to do the rest. But yeah, given that area there, the middle of which part of it looks shaded there, but the middle of that all gets adequate sunlight, and I do have a solar pathfinder. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but yeah. So in that area, which is the first place I'd like to put more hugels, what would you recommend in terms of layout?
Well, first of all, because your land is so flat, now you do have a lot of big trees around, and I imagine that your whole neighborhood has a whole lot of big trees. So the amount of wind that gets to you, probably medium-ish. Like, you probably get less wind than people that are out where there are no trees, but you have more wind than, say, I do.
Yeah, and looking at this picture, there's a park off to the right, and it's wide open, and the prevailing wind can kind of come right in from the bottom right of that photo. So there is a little wind exposure there, but it's not crazy.
And you have a little bit of slope to your land, like the highest.
Very slight.
Okay, very slight.
Yeah, it's probably, I think when I looked at the topo map, it's like maybe 10, 15 feet from the front to the back, from north to south. So
not enough to really be all that worried about.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I'm just guessing here. 10 feet is not much. But in general, when laying in a Hugelkultur, it should go like uphill, downhill, like contrary to on contour. So contour. And there's a lot of people that kind of learn about swales and they are like, oh, I'm going to do both. And it's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you're in a tropical climate, swales are great. And if you're in Minnesota, then I'm going to say Hugelkultur is far better, and it's going to go contra to contour. So that way, if there's going to be any cold air pooling up in your neighborhood, then it's going to go right on down to visit the neighbors instead of sticking around and making frost pockets where you are. I think, in a way, you might simply be boned in that respect. You're going to be in the middle of a frost pocket no matter what you do. However, if your hugelkulturs tend to be really, really, really tall, you might kind of get it up. The tops of them might kind of get up out of the frost pockets enough that it'll be substantially warmer at the top. I doubt you're going to do it. But okay, it's a fun thing to think about and talk about. All right. So generally, contra contour. And then, like Andreas has pulled up on the screen here, wiggly.
Yep.
And it's like, because if you've got wiggly, any wind that comes through can't really get down in between the hugelkulturs, no matter what direction it's coming from. Mm-hmm. And now a lot of people try to make designs based upon what is the prevailing wind. And that's not a bad idea. However, I think making a design that's going to work no matter which direction the wind's coming from is better, because winds do change a lot.
Yeah.
So now in the picture that we were looking at for your stuff, so there's a fair bit of shade. What kind of tree is that casting all that shade?
I think that one might be black locust. We do have some black locust.
Lovely.
I know you love black locust, and I've been killing them because they sprout up everywhere. But now that I'm aware how great the wood is, I'm going to probably try and let them, if they're not in a real bad spot, try and let them go until they're a bit bigger.
So they are a coppicing species. Now, you can't use black locust wood in hugelkultur.
No, this would be for construction.
Yeah. Outdoor furniture is going to be dreamy, or if you're going to build anything outdoors, it is going to be the best. At the same time, that the shade is annoying, and so maybe trimming it up a bit and start to use some of those branches for things. I think it would be fun to even build some chairs. I don't know. We've been building chairs the last few years here, doing roundwood chairs, and with no fasteners or glue. We're getting better and better and better at it. So of course that's immediately where my brain goes. But okay, black locust. My first thought is that it might be something that could be dying right now, like an elm or something, and then you'd be like, oh, that's going to go right into the hugelkultur, so that's going to turn into a big sunny spot.
A little bit of that shade from this is the one picture I posted flipped around, so south is up. A little bit of the trees off that way are dying. So yeah, some of those are ash and can come out. So they're on the list. They're on the chopping block.
Beauty. Yep. Okay, you asked a question about how to place your hugelkulturs. Like, what's going to be the strategy for this plot?
Yeah.
And I gave you some stuff about contra contour, and I also mentioned wiggly squiggly. And so do you have any other questions for me at this time about that?
No, I think that covers it. I'm going to have to move that one, but as I mentioned, it needs to be rebuilt a bit anyway because it doesn't have any soil mixed in. So that's fine. I can rework that.
So just to be clear for everybody else, he did a thing where, and there's like all kinds of misinformation available on the interwebs. And so there's a lot of this misinformation of like, make a big brush pile, and then you're going to have a sticks on sticks on sticks on sticks. Then cover that with soil. And it's like, no, that is a terrible idea. Don't do that. Don't do that. So I'm glad that there's a lot of enthusiasm for hugelkultur. I just wish that these people weren't doing, like, where did they get that idea? Yeah, I'd like to discourage them from doing that and telling people, here's how you do it. I'd like them to stop doing that.
Yeah, I would have liked that too, because I didn't find your diagrams until after I already piled all that up. We piled it up so artfully, but now it's got to come apart. Going down my list, so we've covered a lot of these points. If I'd like to add, more like fruit, bushes, and trees, where should I think maybe on this property about adding those?
First of all, I think you're going to be you're probably already going to know this next one, and that is that for fruit trees, please do not make an orchard. And so because it's kind of like an oxymoron, permaculture orchard. I know that there's that Stefan guy that he's got the permaculture orchard thing that he does, and he's got a lot of cool stuff he's doing. However, I wish to move into something that's more diverse. Orchards tend to be very monocroppy, and once you start getting monocroppy, everything kind of goes bad. But once you start getting a lot of Hugelkulturs, do you know what your annual precip is?
So normally it's about 30 to 34. My rain gauge on the roof says we've got 50 so far this summer. And we had even more last year. All this climate change stuff is really, really making things screwy. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But normal's 30 to 34.
Okay. That's a lot. That's more than Seattle.
Is it really?
Yeah. Seattle's 30. Huh. Yeah. Okay. Isn't that weird? Seattle's so famous for rain, but yeah, 30. But the funny thing is that if you go a little bit east of Seattle, like a half hour east of Seattle, you're in Issaquah, where they get 60.
Yep. Yeah.
And but the other thing is, if you go like into the Olympic Peninsula, which is west of Seattle, but you got to cross Puget Sound and then go further. So that bit of land that sticks out in the ocean, they get like, I think 200 inches. They've got a rainforest. All right. Anyway, sorry. A little trivia. I'm back, though. I'm back. So,
it's good to talk about that range. Yeah. Go ahead. What? Sorry.
If you dig a hole 2 feet deep out there, what do you see?
Well, I put in a big fence and dug a lot of holes, so I got a lot of perspective on that. We have a lot of rich organic material in places, and then we have a lot of sand. We're supposedly in a sand plain here, so there's a mix.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So with the amount of rainfall, that's going to go good with the sand because sand doesn't hold moisture super good. So everything has got a better chance. But at the same time, you're not going to have any problems with water puddling and drowning your growies. That's not going to be a thing.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
And you've never had any flooding of any kind, right?
No, okay. We don't have an issue here.
Yeah, a lot of people in flat land, that's a very common problem. But okay, good. So I'm going to say that having everything be sandy like that and a lot of rainfall, you're kind of a little bit screwed because of the sand. It's going to add some challenge. The rainfall's good, but if it just is gone in like a few hours, it's like, well, damn it, it's all gone. So Hugelkultur for the win. It's gonna act like a sponge and give you a big buffer there. That's gonna be good. But sand, like we're on solid rock, but we found a patch of sand on the property, so we've been using sand, and we've been transforming that slowly into soil. I think our precip here is about. I'm going to guess. This is just a guess. On this property, it's about 20 inches a year. And in Missoula proper, it's 13. And so we're a little ways out of Missoula. But all right. Still, you're getting a lot of precip in the summer, which for us, it's normally bone dry. But okay, good to know. That means that when you're digging down, it's going to be easy to put on top. Whereas for us, we couldn't do that because the solid rock thing.
Yeah.
And when I say solid rock, I don't mean to say like there's a lot of rocks. I mean like this is a 20-acre rock. It's one giant rock. And in places, human beings have chipped at the rock to make flat spots, like with dynamite. So,
luckily I don't have that problem.
Yeah, it's going to be so much easier for you. So, all right. I like the idea of reducing any wind that might be coming through from any direction. I'm glad that it's sand. That means good drainage. And then also, where I'm going with this is we were talking about fruit trees. And so it's like, okay, I want you to place your fruit trees kind of like about a foot up from the bottom. So they're low on the Hugelkultur, but they're not all the way onto the ground. All right?
Yep.
And so that way they're going to be able to tap in to all the moisture reserves that are in the Hugelkultur, and they're going to tap in to all the moisture that's on the ground where you're walking.
Gotcha.
And so they're gonna get all of it, so they're gonna get a lot more. But near the bottom of a Hugelkultur, things tend to be moister, and I want your trees to have like the best, because the only tree that doesn't care is going to be black locust, which you got going on there. There's a few others that are going to be able to cope with super dry stuff, but you're probably not going to grow black locust on your Hugelkultur. You're probably going to focus more on your food producing kinds of trees. You might also put all your trees on more of the north side of Hugelkulturs. So that way, when they get to be really, really big, then you can still have some of your Hugelkulturs out in the sun.
I was thinking northwest, right? So that it doesn't get the morning sun. Is that right?
All right.
So in case I've heard you mention something about the moisture getting into the branches and freezing.
Are you gonna try to grow citrus or some other?
No, we're not trying to grow a lemon tree in Minnesota. So
okay. All right. Well, then you don't.
So maybe not a concern.
But I'm glad that you're listening so well. That is awesome. But you're right. When we start talking about growing a lemon tree in Montana, then we want to block the sunrise a little bit. Not entirely, but a little bit.
Right.
But that's not what you need to do.
Okay, good to know.
Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. All right. You want to get that sunrise sun. You're going to need it.
Right.
So, all right.
Okay. So north side.
Next? What's next? You asked about fruit trees, and I kind of given you a little bit of guidance there.
Recommendations for feeding the chickens. So right now they get a lot of laying pellets, and they get the fruit that maybe has bugs in it, which we don't like, and they do. And they get to roam. They have grass and whatever weeds pop up where they are. It's a little bit difficult for us to relocate them because unfortunately one of our dogs got a taste of live chicken and now they have to be separated. So that's limited. I would love to do like a chicken tractor or something, but I had thought of just having a patch somewhere of stuff that they would love to eat that I could harvest periodically and toss in there. I'm wondering if you had thoughts on that.
Well, if yes, I have a lot of thoughts. And I drive everybody insane with these thoughts. And so why should you be any different?
All right.
It goes like this. I still want you to figure out a way to do paddock shift. And so maybe this means that each year you're going to add a paddock, or maybe some of your kids are old enough to help you, or I don't know, somehow you can rope some sucker into doing it with you. Some way to end up with 4 paddocks or more, or, you know, the idea being that you have some way that where the chickens will be always protected from your dog, of being able to have a paddock that has a whole bunch of Brock's family's garden and food in there. And then when the chickens are about to go in, then you go in and you harvest what you want that you don't want the chickens to have. Mine, damn it. Those are the magic words that you have to say, you know, as you're doing it.
Yep.
Mine, damn it. Okay, so then you got it. And then the chickens go in there, and they're probably going to want to eat the bugs first, and then they're going to eat some of the other things that you also eat.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to be there for, let's say, a week. And then we do the same routine for the next paddock and the next paddock. All right. Chickens will harvest sunchokes. And if you're growing, let's say, 10,000 pounds of sunchokes because time has passed and this is where you are and they're just everywhere, and there's just mountains of food, you're gonna go into this area and harvest a bunch and then let the chickens in, and you're not going to shed a single tear because there's so many sunchokes in there. Even if they tried, they're barely going to make a dent in the sunchokes that are in there. Same thing goes for kale. I don't think that they'll eat the walking onions, but who knows? Maybe they will. But another great thing for growing chicken feed is going to be winter keeper apples. When those apples fall from the ground, the chickens will say, mine, mine. And you'll be like, it's on the ground. I don't care. You go ahead and eat that.
Yep.
So, and I think a lot of it is to be thinking about, like, what are the chickens going to eat in the wintertime? One of my favorites is the sepulchre grain. The chickens have a way of bending over the grain stalk to get at the grain at the end. And if you've already gone and harvested all the grain you want, then the chickens will still find some that you haven't. Another good one from the Department of Grains is going to be a bush-style wheat. And I understand there's been some new wheats that are fairly perennial. Chickens are designed to eat grain, but they eat bugs. Half their diet is bugs, but they eat grain. Human beings, not so much. Not really designed to eat grain. We have ways of doing stuff to the grain so we can eat it, but it's not. We're not really designed to eat it. But we do. All right. The thing is, the chickens can get to that and eat it. Mulberry trees. Now, I keep running into people that are like, "Oh, mulberries are so delicious," and I just kind of get this face like, "Ew, gross." Because to me, and I don't know about all these other people, apparently I'm the only person in the world where, to me, a mulberry is like a really big blackberry that's been soaking in a stew of old tennis shoes.
Ooh.
Like, why does it smell like old tennis shoes? Oh, and it tastes like old tennis shoes too. Yuck. And these other people are like, these are so yummy. Oh, I can eat 100 of these. But here's the most important thing. Some people have all kinds of fruit trees and fruits and things that they're growing, and they want to eat it. And then the wild birds get there first. And then the people are so upset because they got nothing. But if you have a few mulberry trees, it turns out the birds will eat all the mulberries first. And if you got so many mulberries growing that they never finish, they'll never touch your other stuff. Yay! So chickens are also birds. And so the mulberries fall out of the tree and the chickens eat it all up. And they're like, this is the best. This is terrific. Now, my focus, you were saying something like, I'm going to grow something. and then I'm going to go get it, and then I'm going to throw it in there so the chickens can have it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, oh, I think that's a bad idea. And the reason is chickens like to eat 10 times a day.
Yeah.
I'm sure they have a proper name for each of these meals, as opposed to the breakfast, lunch, and dinner that we know about. Oh, we got supper also, and there's 11sies now, thanks to fiction. But they have more meals than that. And so I don't think you're going to do this 10 times a day, every day. And so I like the idea. And plus, whenever I see chickens in an area where there's no greenery, like it's in the middle of, like they're in an area that's surrounded by greenery, but there's no greenery inside where they are, I feel a little sad for the chickens. And so I want to be able to come to your property and not feel sad for the chickens. Also, if I ever point out to anybody like how I feel sad for the chickens, that's usually about the time I'm asked to leave. And so I don't want to come all the way to Minnesota and be asked to leave. So,
well, there's a picture in there somewhere. They do have a lot of greenery at the moment, but they would be happier with a lot more. So,
and that's another thing too, is if you leave them in the same spot for months or years, diseases start to build up there. And it does seem like most, almost every person raising chickens who is demanding that I praise the way that they raise chickens, their philosophy set is, I must be doing a great job raising these chickens because most of them haven't died. And I kind of feel like that's not the metric to run with.
It's a low bar.
That is too low of a bar, I think. And and they don't want to hear about my higher bar ideas. That's just offensive. Which is it's also contrary to the praise they were expecting.
Right.
And it's like that's where everything kind of goes south. So paddock shift is what I want from you. And I think
we can find a way. Yeah.
And I want those paddocks to be where you are eating. And so that's your food. And then they come in there and they eat a lot of the same stuff you eat, but they won't obliterate it. Or if they are obliterating it, you got too many chickens per paddock size. Like you need bigger paddocks or fewer chickens.
Gotcha. Yeah, unfortunately we're limited to 4 here. We used to have 20 in New Mexico, but and no roosters. So, but anyway, we make it work. So, okay, that covers the chickens. I think we can make the paddock shift work. Let me just run down the list here. I think we've got most of these.
I see there's a lot of comments going by, and I haven't looked at any of them. There's somebody says, yes, chickens eat walking onions.
Yeah, I saw that.
I think that's great.
Let's see. We talked about go-to perennial.
There's greenery growing through the winter that the chickens can continue to eat all winter long. And then if you've got so much kale and walking onions and sunchokes, like maybe 10 times more than your family can possibly eat, no matter how hard they try and how much they love these 3 things, these 3 staples, and you've only got 4 chickens, and they're going to be eating like less than 1/10 of what you eat, then it's like, I dug up a sunchoke and it had a chicken peck in it. And it's like, there you go, chickens. Finish that for me, will ya? And I'm going to get only the pristine, perfect sunchokes for me and my family. And it's like, because why not? I've got 10,000 pounds of sunchokes, and there's no way we're going to ever eat all of them. All right.
Yeah, see sunchokes happening. We have covered almost everything. I was just looking at the list. In spots where I couldn't put hugels, this is probably a duh, but in spots I can't put hugels. Some of these back beds we're looking at here right now, I did the thing where I throw a bunch of sticks and leaves and then compost and soil on top of them, and that does seem to help. Would you generally recommend doing that in places where I can't do hugels, or you have a different thought on where to go for other locations?
Well, okay, you got 2 acres.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna take a really twisted route to answering this question.
Sure.
Focus on a quarter of an acre and make it glorious.
Mm.
That means that if you've got some extra leaves and bits of wood and things that can be mulchy, I would rather pick those up and put them on the quarter of an acre that I'm working on this year. And then next year, I'm going to take on a new quarter of an acre. And then the year after that, a new quarter of an acre. And then I'm going to take all of my everything and, put it to the quarter of an acre that I'm working on now. And that is going to be my most productive gardens. And then if you've got a little something over there and there's going on, and you're like, I don't know, I would say I would want to look at a spot and it's like, I've decided, despite my quarter of an acre plan, I have decided that I wish to pour some love on this spot. I'm going to give it 1 hour of my gardening love because I'm stupid that way. And this is just how I roll. And then it's like for each spot, I will come up with a different dream. There's a thing I do here a lot, and it sounds stupid. And I maybe some of the people that are online and chatting in the chatty chat have been here and know that I do this and have done it with me. I call it lawn chair design. And what I do is I get a lawn chair and I put it on the spot. And I sit there with a pad of paper and a pen and I just try to bond. Like I spend a good half hour bonding because I want to pour love on this spot. What do I want to do here? What's going to be, do I want to grow a tree here? Do I want to grow some mulch here that I'm going to hack and use somewhere else? Is this going to be a new strawberry patch? Do I want to plant some grains here this year? And then, I'll harvest them next year maybe. Because sepulchre grain is generally biennial. And usually when I do grain, I do sepulchre grain. But so like rather than like looking at a spot and like, quick, in 20 seconds, what's the plan for this spot? And my first thought is come back to it later. Like I'm going to focus on my quarter of an acre now. And so often I've seen people who have like, I've got 40 acres and they do nothing because they do this tiny little bit over the whole 40 acres. And then it's like nothing seems to ever really change. And that's why I say focus on a quarter of an acre per year and make that quarter of an acre glorious. And then next year, you're going to have a new quarter of an acre project. You might kind of nurture the first quarter of an acre a little bit the following several years. But in time, it's going to get to the point where it's like, it's on autopilot. In fact, I've never been able to get pepper plants to reseed themselves or to be perennial outdoors. But tomatoes, I encourage the volunteers. So it's like, oh, okay, I did this one 3 years ago. Now it's got a bunch of volunteer tomatoes and volunteer potatoes. We got a lot of spots where there's potatoes coming out 7 years later. And there's the sunchokes and there's some asparagus and there's rhubarb and there's one fruit tree and there's, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like that, I think, is the permaculture promise, is the whole thing of like, now you've got this food pump that just keeps pumping out food and you don't irrigate it, you don't fertilize it. And it's just a jungle of food. And it's like, okay, now I harvest. That's all I do with this spot now is I only harvest. So when you ask me, you're looking at a little patch of dirt. What do I ought to do with this little patch of dirt right there? Ready, go. I'm kind of like, it depends. So,
Gotcha.
and you said something about like, you had some mulchy bits, and I'm like, okay, now carry your mulchy bits over to the quarter acre instead of putting it on this little flat spot.
Gotcha. Yeah, so I'm thinking I've gotta take down these trees. It's September 20th. Winter is coming, so if I'm gonna focus, I think right now it's gonna be get those trees down, rent some equipment, get those hugels built, and start working on that for the fall. That's kind of where I'm leaning. So I'll have to come up with a new layout,
That's beautiful.
and get cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's going to probably be too cold and late in the season to really get much planted on those by the time they're done. I would think. So, and I can try and scatter some stuff, but maybe some peas and they can get started. But otherwise, I think it's probably going to have to be in spring, huh?
I do a thing that's a little bit backwards and it's wrong and it makes a lot of work later. But if I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm not going to give this the love I want to give it for a year at least. Like, I want to build it for now, and I need to plant it with something now in order to hold it together and hopefully build the soil along the way. I tend to plant a tall grass that's going to spread with rhizomes, and it helps to enrich. It helps to build the soil and stuff like that. But then later, when I'm growing my gardens, I got to pull it all out, and which is work. But the beautiful thing is that by the time I'm pulling it out, then it's really enriched the soil, and now I got other things I'm growing there. You could plant a bunch of daikon radish, a bunch of kale. You mentioned winter peas. So there are things that you can grow that will grow through the winter to some degree. I would go ahead and start with the sunchokes and the walking onions. I mean, the thing I always like to think of is that it's like, if I'm going to grow any kind of garden here, I need to eat my way through all that stuff to be able to grow something else. You can eliminate sunchokes and walking onions, but you're going to have to be persistent about it and take some steps. But in the meantime, there's other things that do a great job of building. So we're really lucky in that what we have here. Yeah, no, I was going to say, like, earlier we talked about, what mulch to grow, and I got to throw out comfrey. And I did see something where the permaculture orchard guy seemed to not like comfrey. He felt it was dumb. And I got to say, because he was like, oh, my comfrey only grows this tall. It's like, my comfrey grows 5 feet tall, falls over, and has this constant crop of this giant comfrey. And then I go in and I cut it all the way to the ground. And a week and a half later, it's back at 5 feet tall again.
Wow.
And it's like, that is a lot of organic matter that's building soil below the ground. And of course, I'm getting giant bales of comfrey hay to go and lay down as mulch somewhere. And so,
okay.
But it's going to not do well in the winter. So it's not the winter thing, which is kind of what you're asking me, like what to plant in the winter. I have seen, like I went and threw out I took a bunch of daikon seed. I got some daikon radish seed that was like in a packet for sprouting daikon radishes, like you're going to eat sprouts. And so I think I got like this big ass bag for like $4. And I've been grabbing handfuls of that and just flinging it wherever it looks like things aren't growing as well as other places. And I did the same thing with kale in some spots. Only then I got like a little packet and I'm, grabbing this little bit and going. And so now there's baby kales and baby daikons all over the place. And so I'm hoping that this as we get into fall, they're going to be giant and build the soil in a bunch of different ways. But those are two that have some small fame at growing in the cooler season, and they grow quickly. And the kale will pump out food for you, like through December, January, then go semi-dormant and be right back at it early spring, pumping out food for you. And so it's like, and building the soil. Yay. But of course, a big part of what you're probably thinking is like, I want stuff that's going to fix nitrogen. And
and also I don't want it to get overgrown with random weeds or erode off because there's nothing there. So
all true, all good, all good.
So okay.
All right.
I think the last question I had on my list, and if you can veto or whatever, but I've been looking at trying to get out there for like a supper visit, and I don't know, just to kind of get hands on and see what you guys are doing. So I don't know if you have any recommendations for when would be a good time to do that or the best way to do that. It's hard for me to get away with the wife acceptance factor, having the 3 kids at home. So my time is limited, but
I think we had a family stay in the red cabin where it was a couple, and I believe they had 5 kids in there, which I was kind of like, how are you going to do that? Because there's like, if I remember, and I may be wrong because we've changed the red cabin so many times, but I believe there is a full-sized bed in there and a twin-sized bed higher up.
Well, they're not likely, they have school right now, or maybe in the summer that's a possibility. But if I were to just come out there to kind of do some hands-on looking and learning,
so
solo,
okay. I mean, I was going to list off. I mean, I think that they want to be in the red cabin, and it's like we got other cabins that have like 4 bunks, and it's like, well, don't you want that? No. Gotcha. We want everybody wants the red cabin, and it's like, okay, but the thing I was going to say about the red cabin and the love shack and the things here at base camp is, at some point in your life, you got to experience a rocket mass heater, and the only time you can really experience a rocket mass heater is in the colder months, and we're getting into the colder months, and I'm always surprised. I to me, in my imagination, in my brain, it's like, oh, we're going to be booked solid all winter with seppers who want to be in our cabins to experience all the rocket mass heaters that we've built. And no, it's we go through a Montana winter, and it's a bit like a ghost town here, and so it's kind of like, I was sure that we would get just absolutely overwhelmed with people. Nope. So we've had some summers where we would have a lot of seppers and a lot of boots in the boot camp. And then we've had some times in the summer where it's like, boy, there's hardly anybody here. So I don't know. I'm a little baffled, frankly, and this is just me being a whiner. I kind of think like, okay, at the University of Montana in Missoula, there's 10,000 students. I think that none of them know that we exist. And I can't help but think that if all 10,000 of them knew that we existed, probably at least 500 would rather do what we do than what they're doing. And that it doesn't cost near as much as what they're paying. And it's like, and I think that what we're doing is about, I don't know, 50 times more satisfying. But this is just me being a whiner. I kind of feel like what we offer for basically for free is huge and profound. And I'm kind of surprised that we're not packed and there's a waiting list. So whenever you're damn good and ready, we're probably going to have a for you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I do. I want to try to build this rocket mass hot tub thing. And there's a thread I've been discussing with some people on here. So it'd be good to get some hands-on time with one before trying to build it. I would like that.
They do work. They are different. And it is something that's hard. to get from watching videos or reading books. It's something where it's like you gotta feel it, you know.
Yeah.
And then
They're
it's
all about the hands-on.
so it's like I remember we put out a video a while back, a day in the life of a rocket mass heater, and there were some snotty comments that I deleted, but they were kind of like, "There's no way, that's not possible. That is for a fact. It cannot be done." And it's like, and I get it, because I had that same mindset before I experienced them for the first time. And when you've been heating your home with 6 cords of wood every winter for years and years and years and years, to just see a home be that warm with just a handful of sticks, it's kind of like, I don't know, part of it's kind of depressing. Like, why have I been hacking up so many trees every year? You know, this is like, this is all I needed. And then you're just like, the fire's been out for 12 hours and the bench is still super hot. And it's like, and you touch it and you're like, and you've been watching it and you know, it's not like somebody snuck a fire in there when you weren't looking. And it's like, because you were there. So anyway, these guys were posting these horrible, nasty comments on the YouTube video. And it's like, I really kind of feel for them, but they don't need to be so hostile. They don't need to be so ugly. Sure. And you really got to get it firsthand. So Andreas is helping us out today with this, and Andreas and I have been talking for the last 6 months about how we need to make a new rocket mass heater video to talk about how to make it even simpler and clearer about how it works and why and stuff like that. But the bottom line is really you got to just be there and burn it yourself. And the red cabin's good at that, because the red cabin, you're all on your own. It's pretty clear there's no other heat in that building. So it's not like someone's sneaking heat in, you know, and it's like, okay, I built this tiny fire and it's 2 days later, it's been below freezing outside and it's still warm in here. I don't want to build a fire today. It's still plenty warm. And it's like, gotcha. Yeah, weird, huh? All right.
Well, hopefully soon. So that covers everything I had. Did you have any parting thoughts?
Well, there's all these things that people are writing in the chatty chat. Normally, Andreas is great at taking the best of and sticking them up on the screen.
Yeah, he did one. I've been keeping an eye on him. There's not too much there. Just mostly adding a little information about Sunchokes and Wheaton labs and things like that. So, and some suggestions for which cultivars might be good for me and things like that.
I see Derek saying something about how Wheaton labs is a great place to visit. We were there in late September last year, and it's like, and Derek and his wife, I mean, Derek's one of those guys where it's like, what is the happy juice this guy is drinking? I want some. He's just like this perpetually happy guy. So of course he thinks we're great, because I think everywhere he goes, it's great. And so it was such a delight. They were only here for a week. And but that's how a lot of our suppers are. They can only get like a week off of work and they come out. But I'm glad that he got to come out and experience all that we have to offer here. And he and his wife just jumped into projects and it was great. It was really good. I don't know. I'm sure there's other people that are on the chatty chat that have been here too. But okay. If you like this sort of thing, come on out to the forums at permies.com, where we talk about Hugelkultur, homesteading, and permaculture all the time.